who I met the other day? Nick, what's his face? Nick. Oh, what's that sound now?
No, it's me doing my nose. It's me doing my nose. Who did you meet?
No, there's like a static. Oh, now it's gone. Nick Rayburger, what's his name?
Oh, I love Nick Rayburger.
Well,
Oh yes, I saw that he went to your show
because he's good friends with Michael Spencer, who's in the show. Who you'd like Steven a lot. Steven works like nonstop.
I love and Nick Rayburger. Listen, it's so funny. I love talented people. I can't stand untalented people. I know it's so mean, but I just really can't. Yeah. Nick is so talented, and we met.
He was the best one in that Hamlet in the park.
He was really good in that Hamlet in the park. Yeah, he was. No, he's such a sweet guy, and he can sing his fucking face off.
I believe it.
And he's he's a good actor. No, he's
so nice.
We sort of were serving that. We sort of served. I think we're actually kind of similar in terms of. I give all those compliments. I'm like, he's an amazing actor. He could see his fucking face. We're very similar. No, just in terms of the space that we take up, like as performers. And so, like in that Ella thing we were doing, we were sort of.
Oh, he was in that.
That's where we met, and he was sort of serving the same purpose that I was. We like played a bunch of different characters.
But the racist white guy.
The racist white guys. That's right. That's right. And I remember he got COVID and had to leave, and then I had to do the racist white guy scene. I had to read both parts.
I remember you telling me that. Though.
It was horrible.
It's like a bunch of white guys like ganging up on somebody, right?
Yes, and so it was just like me being like like saying horrible things.
So it's just you, just like saying all these lies,
all these horrible
things.
Things.
Funny.
It was horrible for weeks.
But he was so nice because he knows. Yeah, he knows Steven, I guess, really well. And Steven is somebody who knows like fucking everybody. It's crazy. But I told him, I was like. I was like, hey, you're Nick, right? Do you know Joshua Morgan? He was like, oh, yeah, of course, I know Joshua. And I was like, well, and Kathy Hoyt, because I heard that, like, do all this.
Oh, yeah.
I remember you telling me that he walked her home. Kathy's a very good friend of ours. And
we love Kathy.
The podcast. And so, yeah, he was like, oh, of course. But he was really, really nice.
Let's have Nick on.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
I'm gonna ask him to. I just think he's so cool, and I just think he's really sweet
super chill,
and really talented and interesting guy. So yeah, we'll have Nick on. We'll have Nick Rayburger on. Wait, you just were saying something. Oh, wait, y'all, before we forget, Labbadia just opened his show. The assassination of Julius Caesar as told by William Shakespeare and George Bernard Shaw, correct? Did I get
That's
that correct?
the name of the show, yeah.
At Bedlam. I've heard nothing but good things from him about himself, and so please, I have been investigating, and I know that people are thinking it's super interesting, and that Labbadia in particular is giving a specifically dynamic performance. Although no shock there, I've taught her everything she's known. So make sure you go to see it. You run until how long?
April 7th.
April 7th. Oh, that's when Virginia Woolf closes too.
There you go.
We'll see. Okay, so ladies, girlies, hello friends. Welcome to Creative Risk, where we talk about art, entrepreneurialism, and everything in between. I'm continuing to. I hope you see, Mike. I'm holding the blue light with my thumb because as the theme will continue. I was just thinking about that, but then and I have some tape somewhere, but I can't find it.
Well, just because it bothers you, or you're saying for the actual.
Yes,
camera?
it just bothers me. I hate this. Every time I talk about this.
Well, that's because right now I know you have your own face pinned. You're one of those sick people who has like your face pinned on Zoom.
What are you talking about? Call. Wait, you don't. I have you and me side by side. So that I can see. If a crazy man comes in behind me and mid recording, I'm not just babbling away. And then
there you go.
Beats and rapes me.
That's a very like man fear.
That's a man fear? What does that mean?
Yeah, it's like this. I never got this. I've never like men who don't sit with their backs to the door or whatever because like somebody could.
I don't do that.
You don't sit with your back to the door.
Nope. Mm-mm.
I don't know.
Gotta watch it.
I guess I'm kind of reckless. I'm like, yeah, I guess somebody wants to
You
come
are
in.
reckless, but like in a fun way, you know.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But like that's like that's like your whole thing. I'm reckless. I'm reckless, but bless you. You're reckless in a not unconscious way, and I'm reckless in a conscious way.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'm like, let me wreck
Yes.
it. Let me wreck shit. Okay, so folks, listen, we're gonna get into an interesting topic today. Mike had this idea, and I thought, yeah, this is a good one. Was acting conservatory worth it? Was our training, was those 4 years, those intensive 4 years where crazy shit happened, right? You know, I mean, we've talked about this a lot. Was it worth it? Was it worth the what some people refer to as abuse, which I wasn't thinking we should talk about today, but that's an interesting side
Oh, we
topic to just
absolutely
briefly,
should.
you
Yeah,
know.
probably.
Was it considered abuse slash were we prepared? Were we prepared
When
for
somebody
what
stuck a
was to
whole
come?
bowling pin up my ass during clowning class, was that abuse? That's the question. Or was it character building? No, well, it's funny because it's what I realize I'm getting now all the 10-year reunion
Of course.
this 10-year reunion emails because it's my 10-year college reunion.
Who's organizing yours? I organized mine with
I
Haley
don't
Trider.
know. I'm just getting emails from the school. My class is weird. Like, I would not be surprised if like nobody really stepped up and kind of organized it. I would not
Okay.
be surprised. But because we were a really tight class, but anyway, but yeah, so this is an interesting topic because yeah, especially like this is on my mind with the reunion coming up, and I've been thinking a lot about this.
Did
yeah.
you ever think about going? Did you ever think about anything? Because because just to be clear, there's a big difference between an acting conservatory and a liberal arts program, right?
Right.
You know, for example, where Mike and I went to school, the University of North Carolina School of the Arts, we didn't pick our classes. The only classes you chose were your what do they call them? The ones that were non-arts.
Your general academic. I forgot what they actual.
I didn't take them.
Yeah, I remember. Like, well, okay. Basically, to sum up the difference is, and and by the way, I just have to say, but I think it is important context because I don't. By the way, I think Josh and I are going to have different opinions about this. But we went to what is considered to be, if you look at all the lists, always in the top 5 acting schools in not just the country, in the world. If you look at lists, it's always in the top 5.
Look at the lists.
Look at the lists, like Hollywood Reporter or whatever the fuck.
No,
like,
yeah.
It's considered. Does that matter? I'm just saying because we didn't go to like so when we speak to this, I think it's an interesting context we have. I don't think that means anything. I'm just saying.
You're saying because we went to what is considered a specifically great school,
a very, very good conservatory.
Got it. Yeah.
And so the difference, I guess, between because my choice, I was gonna go. I got a pretty big scholarship to NYU, so it was between NYU and and North Carolina School of the Arts, and I got into other schools too, but those are the two I was kind of, because one was because all even though NYU, I don't really know how that program works. You do get your BFA, your Bachelor of Fine Arts, but I think it's technically it is a liberal arts school. NYU is a liberal arts school. I don't know if Tisch is like the conservatory within it. I don't really.
Yeah,
I don't really know how it works.
I think so. I think Tisch is a conservatory. I don't.
Yeah, as I understand the difference really between like a liberal arts I'm assuming, I don't know if you can also get BFAs at liberal arts schools. I actually don't really know how that works.
I think you can. We don't know. We don't know enough about this topic.
But like, yeah, can you get a liberal? Like, if I went to Vassar, I know it's funny. I know a lot. I've run into a lot of actors because I've just been in certain circles who like went to Vassar, who are great actors. I think they got their BAs. That's definitely a liberal arts school. They got their Bachelor of Arts in theater or acting or whatever.
Well, I do think, but it's it's interesting. It's interesting because in short, this is not a conversation about conservatory versus liberal arts. It's essentially
It's not,
asking
no.
if acting conservatory was worth it. But I think the assumption is when the distinction we're trying to make is, in a lot of instances, you can double major someplace else. Like you can go to a school where you can't double
Right.
major at a place like the School of the Arts. And somewhat similarly, and I'm curious what made you go there, I was offered, excuse me, a full ride to Boston Conservatory for musical theater. And
Yes.
then I chose the School of the Arts as well. Why did you choose the School of the Arts over Tisch?
I think it was like, I really did see it as like a choice between like liberal arts and like a conservatory.
Interesting.
I did see it like that. North Carolina, like there was something about, and when I went to the campus, it was just the vibe and everything was like magic on that campus. It's just like, it's out in the middle of, and I'd never been down south really before.
Same.
Me and my dad drove down there, and my dad even was a little, and he's not like Mr. Progressive or some shit, but like he was even a little like, okay, like, he was a little weird about going down there, about like seeing what it was all about. But I just remember it felt like summer camp, basically.
Yeah.
It felt like you were just going there to do that thing, and it felt very intense. Whereas, and yes, there was part of me that was like, oh, if I go to NYU, then I could audition, or I could get, New York experience or whatever the fuck it was. And I remember that was a consideration, but I remember feeling like North Carolina School of the Arts was going to be more intense, because also, I will say this about Tisch and whatever, like, they take a lot of people. I'm not saying that it's any whatever. I don't know anything about, I know people who teach there and shit, but like, they take, the classes are bigger. They have a high, whereas like, School of the Arts, as like, they take 28 people per class, right? So it's like a small class, a small ensemble each year. And the final thing I'll say about sort of the difference, then I'll ask you why you chose there. But, the difference I think between a conservatory and a BA program practically is probably that you don't have as many academic courses. I think you do the bare minimum academic amount. And yeah, there's less flexibility in what you choose. So you can't be like,
Well, what flexibility at all? I mean, where we went to school, did you ever? You didn't get to pick
no
what
flexibility.
classes you took.
Well, there was a fight, and this is interesting. I don't know if you should talk about the changing nature of these conservatories now, but I remember there was like a fight going on even when I was there. That was like, oh, more cross. I want to do more stuff with the film school, or I want to be in, and the old school like faculty was like, no, like you do. This is what you do. Like I even remember when kids were self-producing, I remember Kevin Carrillo.
I was just reading about him. He just posted something this morning.
Well, he just got a fellowship somewhere, but he was he's a director, but he self-produced like a two-hander, like in one of the studios, like him and this other Carissa in my class. And I remember they just did it on the weekend, like 2 performances, and invited people in the studio. No big deal. I remember like the faculty was not happy about that.
Yeah, that was all my years. I mean, Hedwig started when we were still in school. We were auditioning the students. They did, and I'm sure
the teachers didn't like it, right? Because they don't want you. So, like when I think of a conservatory, it's very controlled. But it's like, this is the curriculum, this is the philosophy, this is what we do. These are the classes you take. Don't stray outside. Like you're basically here to like do what we say. That's what I think about when I think about conservatory. What made you choose North Carolina School of the Arts over Boco?
Well, so I really wanted to go MT. I really wanted to go for musical theater. I was interested in Carnegie Mellon, CCM, all the basics, Michigan, Boco. Boco was actually my number one. But Mike, there was this Labbadia. There was this weird thing that was happening when I was auditioning. 3 schools, Ithaca, CCM, and I forget which. There was another school that all in my auditions, they said, great, after I would sing my songs and do my monologues, are you interested in our acting program? So that was the first thing. That it was this weird thing of like, what do you mean? Like, why do they keep asking me that? Like, can't I sing? You know, they were funny about it. And I'll tell you, you know, I didn't even apply to the School of the Arts. I was a walk-in. I saw the sign and I popped my head in to Robert Bester and Robert Francisconi. And I said, are there any more slots for today? And Robert Bester was like, well, have you even applied for the school, dear young man? And I said, not yet. I actually only learned about it yesterday because I hadn't even heard about the school. And he said, well, lucky for you, we have one more spot open. And so I came back and I was the last of the day. And I'll tell you something, Mike. Excuse me. I feel like I'm like.
You can call me Mike. It's fine. It's just my I know you feel like
I'm dead naming you.
Yeah, exactly, dead naming me. It's Rex. It's Seed. My name is Seed now.
So I go. So I go in, and then it was honestly the first time I actually had felt seen. No, but really, they spent 30 minutes. I was in there for 30 minutes. They talked to me. They were all, I mean, they were curious about who I was, what my interests were, what my background was. They worked with me, and I felt so taken care of. And then, this is really gay, but the light in the piazza was in previews when I had gotten my acceptance. And I went to see the show. And so this is many moons ago now. And I remember there's that line in the show the Kelly O'Hara character sings in Winston-Salem, and she like sang it, and I was in the audience, and I was like, it's a sign. The gay gods are looking down on me. I have to go. So that's why I went to the School of the Arts. Slay all day, bae. Anyway. So just to say something again about the conservatory versus liberal arts, and then we'll start to get into, you know, our perspectives on whether it was worth it or not. In a general sense, I would also I would stroke again. I would also argue that people, kind of like what you were saying, people, or maybe what I was saying, people sort of consider the difference between conservatory and a liberal arts program as an options, right? So if I go to a conservatory, I am doing that thing. I'm going to a conservatory for dance or violin or whatever, acting. And that is my primary focus. If I go to a liberal arts program, I can still learn my trade while also I can get my degree in psychology or marketing or whatever. Exactly.
And you're getting as I understand it, maybe I do not know. It's sad. Yeah. And this is the other thing about going to conservatory, right? Is that you become kind of an idiot because it's like you don't really know much about the world because you're not learning a lot.
You're like, I want the conservative arts program.
Yeah, well, it's yeah, exactly. I thought you said conservative. What's all this? I thought this was the conservative arts program.
That's why Angelo let you go. He was like,
I want to do a show about the Havana syndrome, the fucking psyops.
The Havana, is that the thing that made those people like?
Yes,
like that was in the air, like they spied.
Yes,
yes, interesting.
Now nobody knows what that is except that's how you know you've been on some Reddit threads, my friend.
I also just read. It's a thing that like people talk about.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. Where's the play about that? Just people go like just stand there and be like, ah,
just dropping dead one by one.
Just dropping dead. Just like, can you hear it? I guess what was crazy. Wait, really quick about that. I guess what was crazy about that was because there's sonar weapons.
Oh yeah. By the way, before you go in, Mike's a conspiracy theorist. Just so you know, keep going.
But it was, but like there's sonar weapons, right? So there is like a thing they have. Like I've seen them. They're like big things. So they just like pulsate sound at crowds, and it's like incredibly. But you can't hear
it's just you doing it. That I'm like picturing like you as one of the characters. Like yours would be exactly. Yours would be it'd be a quite serious play, and then like Labbadia's turn at being attacked by
the sonar. I'd be like, But what's weird is that I guess what was weird about that. So anyway, they use them for crowd control. These like sonar weapons. But what's fucking crazy is that only specific people. It was very targeted. So it's not like
Right.
everybody else around me was hearing it. It was just
Right.
me hearing it.
Right.
I wonder
Right.
what the fuck that was. China. I don't know. But
You know, I gotta say, I just gotta say real quickly, just to say, I was watching a Trump speech the other day. I know we always talk about Trump on here. I was watching a Trump speech the other day. It is
the ultimate
wild.
performer.
It is wild shit. To your point about China, he would say something like that. He literally says nothing. It is insane. Someone will be like, "Hey, what's today? What's today?" Well, first I'll tell you now that there's lotion all over the floor, and that's because of the Democrats and and he just goes on random fucking tangents. He just says shit. He doesn't even make thoughts. And people are so excited. It's wild.
Yeah. Well, no, because he's just giving hot takes on things that don't. Like, literally, they're like, yeah, it's like something. He's like, well, first off, you got to talk about China. It's like, yeah, literally, it's something.
Exactly.
But, just to say the alternative is somebody who's literally dead. That's the alternative.
And I will happily say, give me that alternative. 100%. We've had this conversation. There is no way in hell that Donald Trump. I would
never vote in a million years vote for Donald Trump.
I would rather Biden on a life support system.
I don't know if I can vote for a little corpse. I don't know.
No, and also, how ageist are we? Because look. Let me just say,
girl. No. Time out.
Let me finish my thought. Let me finish my thought.
Okay.
He's not dead, and this is actually what's said. Think about your parents. Hear me out. In 20 years, when your parents are at a point when they're slowing down, but they're still cogent individuals. They just hear me out. Out. I've been around a lot of old people. I've watched old people die. I understand how as they get older, their faculties.
It sounds like you're saying
down.
I have a lot of black friends. That's what it sounds like you're saying right now. I'm sorry. Yeah,
I obviously he has a stutter, and obviously he probably does have cognitive decline.
The stutter was made up. Okay, but straight up, the stutter is fake.
See,
but seriously. By the way, it's not just. There's a lot of progressives out there who agree with. He never had a stutter.
Where's the tape?
Hold on. He never had a stutter until he started getting old. Now they start talking about the stutter.
Even if that was true,
that is true. Look at past interviews with him. He never had a stutter.
Who cares?
I care because he has dementia. That's why I care. I can't vote for somebody who has dementia.
No.
This
is.
And by the way, my opinion. This is what a lot of people think. This is if you look at polls, people say he is not.
I'm not saying it's just you.
Fit.
I'm not just saying it's just
a
you.
President.
I just think we're focusing on if that's the argument next to sociopath crazy fuckwad. I don't care. I don't want to hear it. We should only be talking about one thing, and it's that crazy loser.
Well, see, this is the problem with party politics, I guess, because I completely disagree with you. You can't. So we shouldn't have to choose. We should not be in a position where we need to choose between a sociopath and a dead person. That should not be our two options, and that is a failure.
That's totally fair.
I think to say like no, I don't want to hear the other side of it is perpetuating the problem. That's perpetuating this fucked up system we're in, where the Democratic Party literally did not allow a democratic process. They did not allow. They took him, put him on the pedestal, did not allow for due process.
And just so you know, that's exactly. Do you know the new RNC head, and Mike John? You know, Trump
I don't like
Trump. No. What I'm saying is that not the Democratic Party. That's politics, and I'm not saying that you're wrong, Mike. Excuse me. The Republicans and the Democrats are alike. It's because it's the game they play. You're so right that they've put people in place to maintain their power, and I don't disagree with you that there aren't enough options. And but I'm just saying that in a very basic sense, it feels black and white to me.
That's fair. I disagree, but that's not because I would ever a million years cast my vote for Donald Trump. That is never going to happen, but never. But that doesn't mean that to me. What I just, a lot there. I think there's gonna be a lot of third party turnout this year, which I understand in theory, but this is the problem, right? Where I just disagree with all of this is like in theory, it's like yes, just voting third party just hurt whatever. It's like, but yes, if you buy into a bullshit system and you keep perpetuating the problems of okay, do I want to vote for the corpse or do I want to vote for the sociopath? It's like I just
Corpse.
can't. Okay, that's you. I can't vote for a corpse.
Sure, heard, and that's your right, and I respect that. I respect that. I really do.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know how we got there, but okay,
well,
so we
because you brought up Trump. That was your fault.
yes, no fault.
Because we're talking about China.
Oh, that's right. So, and his speeches. Okay, so now let's skip to this part now when we're talking about, essentially asking us this question: Was the school worth it? So, I think
we lose all of everything because of that conversation.
No. I mean, I think it's of the moment. It's of the moment.
It's of the moment, and
you
that's the
keep
thing.
wanting to talk about it. 25 more minutes.
No, no. It's of the moment. It's of the moment.
Sorry, I'm writing something down.
You're like
well, no, because let's talk about was it worth it. So first let's talk about because we'll also talk about what was your favorite part of school. What was your favorite part of going to conservatory?
Okay. Well, that's the thing, right? Is that that's the thing, because everybody thinks that their conservatory experience is very unique. But I've talked to people now went to NYU grad or Juilliard or Carnegie Mellon or whatever, and I feel like everybody has sort of the same general experiences. So even though it's to me it feels very North Carolina School of the Arts specific, I think that these probably apply to other things. For me, what was really special about School of the Arts was honestly was when I look back on the memories, the good memories I had there, they're always around my fellow students. More than even the classes or the performances or the whatever. Like, it was more thinking about playing volleyball.
Yeah.
Like, on a day off.
We had we had like a singular volleyball court on our tiny campus.
Oh, it was
and we
incredible.
Loved it. We loved it.
No, and so like I'm thinking of like St. Patrick's Day. Like, okay, like literally my best memory of School of the Arts was St. Patrick's Day, my second year. We just got assigned our second year Shakespeare projects. So we just got assigned, everybody just got their parts, and we had the day, I forgot, maybe it was a Saturday was St. Patrick's Day. I don't remember. I think it was a Saturday. So it was just like the whole camp, and this is in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. The weather was beautiful that day. It was all green, and then there's like a beautiful hill, and everybody was out. We were biking, and we were drinking, and smoking a little ganj and playing volleyball. And I remember just like what was so special about School of the Arts was the environment. It felt like you were.
It was special.
It felt like you were at summer camp because like literally you're walking and there's like dancers like over there,
Truly.
like in their tights, and then there's
some guy playing a trumpet. Exactly.
Some guy playing a trumpet. And it's this tiny little campus with like
literally sound stages 500 feet from the hill.
Film professional. Exactly.
Yeah.
They had a film village where it was like these huge like industry sound stages, and the environment of School of the Arts was magic.
It still is to this day. When I go back, I love it.
I haven't been back in a while, but I just remember that, like, in the energy and the passion and young people, and everybody's so hot. Everybody's hot.
Yes.
And everybody's fucking. And it was just like, no, but that was part of it. It was like, and you're bonding, and what was really magical is like, you're going through like basically, it's kind of like trauma bonding with all of these people. with all of these ensemble members, with these cast people, and I'll never forget, whatever. This is what time are we supposed to be? Oh, we got time. I remember we do this thing called trialogues. We would, what was it, a dream? It was something like, I don't even remember. It was like, you would come in with like, that's the thing. I don't remember the training very well, but it was like you had like a dream and you like write the dream out. And it was like these characters in the dream. So it's like there was like a centaur and like a squirrel and and they have a conversation. And it's almost like Jungian dream work now that I think about it. It's something like that. But then you give voice, and then so basically everybody comes in, and then what was crazy was this is 2 weeks into school, and we were with strangers. You barely know these people. You barely know these people. Freshman year, you're 18 years old, and we're all in a circle, and the lights are dim. So what do you think this dream means? And he's like, he's kind of talking you through the dream, and you're like, blah blah blah, and it's like you realize, oh, it's about my mom, or it's about my the guy who, I'm not trying to be funny, like the guy who, I'm not trying to be funny. That's such a bad disclaimer. The guy who sexually assaulted me when I was 12. It's
well, you
literally...
did it. You're funny. That's funny.
I know, but no, I didn't want to. Fuck. But it's like, it's like the guy, or my ex or whatever, and it's like, who's the dream really about? And you're doing this, and then he's like, say what you want to say to them, and then you're like, how could you do this to me? It's like, you never saw me, you never loved me, and it's like screaming, sobbing, and it was the same thing at this woman whose dad died. It was like crazy shit. And and I remember I did mine. And this is this was probably the fourth class, not even, maybe the third class we had with them. And I'm screaming, crying in front of strangers. And then right after that, and it was the biggest release I'd ever had in my life. It was and I said some shit that was I never said in my life before, crazy shit. I was like, Trump 2024. No.
But was this your favorite part, or you're just saying this was a crazy part?
I'm saying this. Well, this is what I love about it, is that okay, so you do that, you're drained. And then that night we fucking partied. We went to a guy's dad house who lived in High Point. It was in my class. And we had a rager. And that was the school. It's like you're bearing your soul, and then you're going out and you're doing drugs and getting fucking drunk and fucking. It was just like that.
But you want to hear something funny about the drug stuff? So I've never really been a big drug person or a big drinker. That's not. Although it's so funny. Every time I say that kind of shit, Michael calls me up, because every time we see someone from my class, remember when you drank that whole entire bottle, the larger than average bottle of wine, and did crazy shit. But I'll tell you this: I was actually on alcohol and drug probation when I was in school. But here's what's ironic: this was not me. I didn't drink until I got to school. And I really didn't do any drugs while I was there. But I do remember there was one of these early parties where first I was drinking my grandmother's drink, which I still drink to this day, Stoli cranberry, splash of OJ, and a lime. Which, of course, when I get to this house party, I'm like, I'll have a Stoli cranberry, splash of OJ, and a lime, please. Meanwhile, they're probably just
they're like, here's rubbing alcohol in the punch.
Exactly. But I'll never forget. So I was standing there, and then the police showed up, and it's a huge house party. Everybody runs, but me.
That happens.
But
you didn't run?
I'm standing there. Not only that, I opened the door. Hello, not my house. Holding the drink. Hello, good evening. I mean, not like that really, but I was like, I don't know what to do.
Basically.
And so then they, wrote me a ticket, and then I had to go to therapy. I remember I had to go to therapy and and pee in a cup. And I remember being in this therapy, and I'm like, there are people. I said, talking to this woman, I said, there are people who are right now doing cocaine 100 feet away from us.
You just a rat on everybody. You're just you let the cops in. Total narc. You let the cops in, then you're like, do you know so and so? You're just giving names.
But the point was that it was insane. And then I appealed it, and I was like, I'm not coming here anymore. And then I literally just stopped going. I was like, this isn't ridiculous, because it wasn't even my vibe. Okay, so my favorite part of school.
What was
and then
your
we'll move
favorite
on from this. Just to say, it's quite simple. My favorite part of school, and Michael and I talk about this a lot sometimes, is just. Our lives were every day, all day, art, creativity.
Yes.
You got up and for me, because I was producing so much, and I didn't end up taking any of the academics because I was so singularly focused on
So
doing.
you got a certificate. Did you
I
get your
got a,
BFA?
I got my BFA.
Well,
There was a so from morning to night, I mean, truly, I would get up at like 7 a.m. and from like 7 a.m. until 1 a.m. 2 a.m. You were making art all day in rehearsals, making your
yeah.
own things. I mean, it was nonstop, and it was a time of my life that I'll never forget. And I would argue that when we talked about that from the financial freedom and creative and financial freedom and what that means to me.
Yeah.
Well, it's what I try to chase to this day, every day. It's all I want my life to be. I mean, no shit, but I mean, like, because obviously it's what people want, but I'm serious. But and actually I was journaling about this morning. Breakdown in tears. I no, I you know this about me. It's not that people in my life aren't important. It's not that other experiences in my life aren't important. But I prioritize my creative life for whatever reason. I'm sure it stems all the way back to some form of trauma, overly used word, but that every day is about. That's all I want my life to be consumed by, just to some extent. And even us working, this podcast and artist strategy, to me, they sync up. The worlds sync up for me. And so even though it's like other elements of my skill set and work, it's me always chasing, which is getting back to the question, that favorite part of what school was for me, which was morning, noon to night, my life being driven by what I want to create, period.
Well, and yeah, I think you're right. To me, it's about the environment. I think
Sure.
is kind of what we're both hitting on here is like
Yes.
the culture of, it was the extreme. It was, yeah, you're making art all day, you're learning, you're growing, you're in great shape because like you're
Yes.
dancing, you're warming, you're like you feel
Yes.
great in your body and like
Yes.
and
Yes.
and it was just raw. What the final thing I'll say too about it is like raw experience. It felt like so raw, and the reason why I bring up like, you know, 1 minute you're like sobbing in class, and the next minute you're like, I mean, I'm not trying to be vulgar. It's just like, it's like one day you're sobbing and literally you're sobbing in class. 2 hours later, you're like fucking like a 10 dancer. It's like it's just like the extreme raw environment.
I do think that you and I might have had slightly different college experiences, but not in a
girl.
bad way.
Where you get? I think you were getting dicked down a fair amount.
Okay.
Dicking down.
Let me be clear. It's not that I'm not prescribing to what you are saying. I'm simply saying that I actually think that it's in your DNA. It's who you are. I said this to you a few months ago. You are a fun person. You seek out fun. You are a very social person. You are very much an extrovert. It's part of your DNA to be like, yeah, I'm going to work. You work so hard and you play hard. Like that is like your vibe. And so all I'm saying, and actually, if I may, Laboud, Labade.
Yeah.
I could use more of that, actually. I'm a little myopic, and so my life was actually a bit too focused on just my work at the school too.
No, that's fair.
You know what I mean?
And I was, and just to be clear, I was in the studios till 2 a.m.
Exactly.
Exactly. It was, but yeah, you're right. It's like that to me. That's what the fun of the school was like. It was the intensity of the social experience, honestly, paired with the artistic experience. That to me was.
So, what was your least favorite part of the school?
Well, I don't. Looking back, because I loved my experience there, so I didn't have a part I didn't like about it. While I was there, I loved it. I truly, but I look back now and this is my overall critique, I guess. I didn't really learn how to act there.
Sure.
That's kind of my major critique, is that I didn't have surprise. The whole point of going to a conservatory, which is why I'm sure, like, look, these kids now, the whole point of going to school, it was like a trade school where you were going to learn a foundational
Right.
skill set and be able to come out to the world like a craftsperson. That was the pitch,
Right.
right?
Right.
Was that,
Right.
and you come out and you're like, I have all these skills and I know all these things. Now, mind you, like the voice training, Linklater, all that, like that stuff is so fucking important. Like that stuff, absolutely. That's like a hard skill that I have of like, I have no problem. I warm up. And I have, I can be heard very clearly. Whatever, and shit like that.
And
But
I can be heard. Yes.
and I can be heard. No, but that's a skill set. But look,
Hey,
there are
hey,
people who don't have training
I'm going through it right now.
who you can't
Louder,
hear. You can't hear
louder.
people. Exactly, louder. You can't hear people.
Yeah.
But the biggest problem was because it was such a raw state experience, because it was just the environment, and they were breaking you down constantly and you were kind of living at a 10. I actually didn't learn any foundational acting skills, I feel like, which is so therefore I was always chasing like a state or something like that, as opposed to like, wait, when I get a script, what do I do? And I don't think that's the fault of the school per se. I think that you have to probably look, the thing is with acting training, I don't know if anybody should be you have to sort of, it's one thing to be in class nonstop, and then it's another thing to be working and to be like, what am I going to do? Or get sides and realize like, oh, all the shit I learned in class doesn't actually really help me. That's something that you just have to learn on your own.
Sure.
But but when I think about the problems I have with school, there are these two problems. It's like I said, it's like, okay, like I had to teach myself acting in the real world still. I still had to teach myself how to act. Like, I left there and didn't feel like I had actually the confidence I needed, even though I was like, totally privileged there, got a lot of leads, and like was very like, this. And the other problem is honestly dogma. There's still dogma behind. Whenever you have an acting teacher, that what you risk, and what I've been very allergic to, is this is what good acting is. This is how,
Of course.
especially, oh, there's no subtext in Shakespeare, or you always have to be doing something, or you have to, well, who says that? That's the big problem with, but any training.
Yeah, but it's so funny you say that, because I actually don't disagree with that. But like, to me, that's kind of an obvious. Let me hear me out when I say this. A lot of times, like whenever I work or am teaching acting or working with actors and who are trying to develop a process, there are so many schools of thought. You have to discover that for yourself. And conservatory, for example, is obviously, or some sort of initial training program is a step one. It is initial. And then, and which I would argue, and what our dean, Gerald Friedman, I would argue did well, is he had a point of view. So now it might not be everybody else's point of view.
No,
it's there, because there's all kinds of. Just to be clear, there's so many processes, tools, styles. I mean, and the way we learn in America, is based off of Stanislavski. That's the primary of our of modern acting technique. There's that great book we read, Mike. Remember that? On
Actor prepares.
No.
Oh, the method.
The method, how the 20th century learned to act. That really, that really still remains the baseline of modern acting technique. And I'm just saying it because you're so right. But that's, I guess, an interesting program could be, here are 8 different techniques. We'll teach you them all. And
And I don't know if
then
that's effective. Yeah, per your
sure.
point, I don't know if that's effective. And you're right. Is that, and that's the thing is, I don't know if that's a critique of the school or if that's just a critique of just training in general. Is that when per your point, but you feel like the differences at school is that you have like these people who are basically gods who have complete and total power. And you, at least if you're very insecure like me or very people pleasing or wanting validation, like you take their word for gospel.
Sure.
And it's
Sure.
like, and so it's difficult to, you know what it is? My major critique, and then you should go, is that you're not given an opportunity to develop your own unique artistry. In my opinion, because of the environment, because of how it's structured, it's more about this is what it is. This is what you should be trying to reach and discover and get to, as opposed to, well, what is your point of view? What is you on art, on whatever, on da da da.
Yeah.
And so that is what I think my major critique is. But what's your critique?
Well, more the question is the least favorite part of
Or
what
least
school was
favorite
for
part,
us,
sure.
because I do want to get into the specifics of how we were prepared or not prepared, and for me, to be honest with you, and you've heard me say this before, as someone who has always done multiple things, who has always produced or directed or done other things besides just act, and including all these conversations we have, this work that we engage with, my sense of being treated like less than an artist stems back to school, because when I was there, to be 100% with you, I did not really feel respected or cared for as an actor. I did not feel like I was being taken as seriously as some other people. And I voiced the concern. I said, I don't think you are treating me. For example, I mean, I had a handful of fine parts. So I'm not, so anybody who listens and is like, this isn't true. I didn't have multiple leads. It's not like I was like
Right.
like they weren't like trying to prop me up as an actor. And that was not. I still really hold a lot of resentment because, actually, somewhat similarly to you, well, I actually do think I was prepared quite a bit from a craft perspective, and I want to talk more about. And I have a specific example that I want to give that I think it has prepared us more than we may realize. It's kind of
Sure.
similarly, I didn't really feel like I learned how to act or um was really taken seriously until I left and moved to DC and started doing some really exciting shit that where I was like, "Oh, okay, great. I do have this skill set." Okay. So, let's chitty chat about preparation, though, more specifically, because we start. And you know what, let's start from this big one, because I actually think the craft is the big one.
I
So
mean, that's the whole
so
point. Yeah.
right, exactly. Well, it
Or
is the
one
whole
of the whole
point.
points.
Yeah, but that's kind of what we're talking about. So you believe for your money, you sort of said it, that just craft wise, you did not ultimately feel like the school prepared you as best it could.
I think that's accurate.
What elements of craft do you feel like you were prepared
Well,
for?
because let me say this. Because this is important, because this kind of sums up everything for me. What's hard about school, what's hard about it is that you have to go all in to take, it's funny. It's like when the older people, because like we went to school, it's like there were 35-year-olds in my class and then there were 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
Like it was
Yeah.
one of those programs. And the people who had some skepticism or like did not kind of buy it hand over, like, we're not just like anything. The reason why I was successful there was because I was like, I am ready. I was like, anything, everything, tear me down, and I'll do anything. I did not have a lot of skepticism. I was down for whatever. And where am I going with this? It's all a blur, man. I remember very little about class. very little about the lessons because because you're in a state the whole time. You're in like a heightened, almost dreamlike state the entire time,
Mm-hmm.
that there's very little time in my experience to reflect, to actually go down to the brass tacks and be like, okay, well, what was the technique or the process that I learned? The whole experience, because you're literally doing breath work and screaming and like physical activity. And then like you're getting up there and you have teachers coaching you, breaking you down. I did not walk. I walked away with feelings of what it was, but no way, no
It's interesting.
foundational principles.
But it's fascinating because I would maybe I'm being dismissive with this thought, but it feels a little bit, and because we've talked about this, I think there is a bit of a point of view that you should go to acting school for 4 years when you're 18 years old, and then you're done. And the reason why I'm bringing this up in relation to it is because, like, that's what we're saying. That was step one. And to your point about
but that's not what they fostered there. I agree with you. But if that was the framework of which, like, hey, Declan Donnellan's, this is not true. It may be useful. Your training will continue forever. We were the environment of that school was, this is it. What you're gonna get here is gonna be it. That was the whole. What we say here is everything. And there was a vibe of like, yeah, you're gonna graduate here and you're gonna start working immediately, which is a whole other conversation that we're gonna have. But like, that was the environment. It wasn't. That was sort of the message we were sent. It wasn't a message of, this is step one on your artistic journey.
Of course. But in this first half, also, let's focus on like what all these things also did do, because and the only reason I'm saying it is because I think they're important. Because I hear you, I don't disagree with you, but let me counter that for a quick second.
Oh, I don't know. You asked me about the craft.
No, exactly. It sounds like I'm dismissing what you're saying. I'm not, but like, I'm not trying to, at least. And also, I just reread The Actor and the Target. I forget how much I can't stand that book, and let me just tell you why. So heady. It's I think it's a translation, right? That's why it's so like Russian, verbose, and I really that book is really tricky for me. It's
not for everybody. It is very conceptual. You're 100% right.
Like, I'm just sort of like, can't we say this simpler? Like, why is it so poetic? I don't know. Maybe
I completely agree with you. I agree with you.
But for me, I just want to say, and I'll tell you, so there's a couple of things that for me that really worked, how the school prepared me from a craft perspective. Some of it's macro and some of it's micro. One, I do think that it was where I started to develop a sense of identity for myself, to go, it's so basic, but it's where I came out, like I started to develop a sense of identity. I will also say, working with artists at such a high caliber, both some of the actors that were in the program, also the some of our teachers and some of the guest artists, John Langs, etc., that were just at another level, and part of what that did was help us, I would argue, develop a sense of work ethic, a sense of pace. Yes. The whole environment was a sense of pace, pressure. There was a great deal of pressure at the school. You constantly were being put in these positions where you had,
that's true,
ever there was second year Shakespeare's or showcase or the model. It was always like there was like an event you were working towards.
School of the Arts people are prepared. Look, I mean, School of the Arts people that I've worked with, they're always, they're prepared and they're professional and they're,
I'll tell you the moment when I went, oh, thank God I went to school.
Yeah.
When I joined Les Mis, I had 2 weeks to learn 4 tracks, and I started with Thénardier when I started performances. And Mike, I'm a pretty hard worker. Just as is, and I think I have enough talent that allows me to capitalize on that, on both those things. But I'll tell you, when I finished going into that show, like after those couple of weeks, I remember thinking, who could do this? who could do what I just did. It was so insane what I had done in 2 weeks. And I'm not patting myself on the back. I actually was like, thank God I went to that school, because there was so many things I was using, or again, just the idea of pace and pressure that had been instilled in me.
Well, standards, yes, and because I had a similar experience of like when I had to learn Joan and Hamlet, on the like in like a week and a half. It was like, and I think what that was, it wasn't so much the tools that I used for me personally. But it was the standard. What I agree with you is it's a professional standard of like you don't bitch and complain, like you learn it, and not only you learn it, you do it great.
Right.
And that I completely agree with you. Is instilled a sense of standards. It instilled a sense of work ethic.
Right.
And a sense of professionalism. And yeah.
Now, of course, there's so many examples, and let's do the counter though, because from a craft perspective, I mean, you were sort of saying it. I'll also just say that I and I think it kind of relates back to what I said was my least favorite part. I didn't understand the full scope of what I was capable of. I didn't feel like I had actually been stretched enough as an actor.
Yep.
And so I didn't have the same confidence that I should have had leaving the school, in a way that made me know that I could do what I was capable of. And just to say, certainly with film and television, there was a lot lacking.
Oh, yes.
A lot lacking. We did not really collaborate with the film school as much as we should. I did a few films there, but I really didn't collaborate with them. Our class, we don't have to say names, just that was not good. That was not real. That was, you know what I'm saying?
What was not real?
Our film class, our TV, our on-camera class.
Oh, yes. Yeah, ours was not either. Yes. But, here's my big problem with the training. I'm realizing too. It's kind of like I feel like you're doing good work because you're being whipped up into a state, and then, you can't really take that and run with it in the real world. You can't always be like living a life of like insane, or maybe you can. I don't know. But my big problem with the training was, and this is why, when you talk about Actor in the Target, because Actor in the Target is almost like the anti-American style of training in a lot of ways. It's almost like in the sense of what I have, look, and maybe this is step one, right, to this, but there was so much of a focus on me, myself, and I there.
Sure.
On what I was going through, on what I was feeling. And that's where I really that was almost my Garden of Eden, because I became aware of, like the apple in the garden, because like that's where I became self-aware really for the first time, because we were doing so much work on ourselves, on our habits, on our pasts, on our beliefs and all this shit, which I'm not saying is a bad thing, but that was, that is American style acting training, is that it's all based out of psychotherapy, basically. It's all kind of arose from, psychotherapy. It all kind of came from Freud, and like that's kind of what the Moscow Art Theater took. And like, so American acting training has a basis in psychotherapy, basically, and self-awareness. And that is not useful for me as an actor.
Sure.
Self-awareness and looking into myself is actually not helpful. So yeah.
Industry knowledge, which
LOL.
I don't. What?
You push it by that. You have no thoughts about that?
Oh no, really? I'm just trying to get to these other ones for time. I don't think. Well, what I was thinking about actually when you were saying that was about how we wear. We wear blacks, which is nothing new. That's although they're losing that. But I'm saying it because while I do think that first and second year was about somewhat understanding that, there was also like, remember when we did. Not only do we wear blacks to class because the whole concept was that we're a neutral body in the space, but even our mask to red nose progression starts in black face hood. So I say this because there were elements that were super self-centric, and then I thought there really were elements that were so not about you. And so I hear what you're
Yeah, that's
saying,
fair.
but I actually feel like we've moved more towards identity acting training,
That's
than
probably accurate.
potentially when we were there. Period. That's what I was thinking.
Okay. Industry knowledge. What were you gonna
Industry
say?
knowledge. So this is so, which I do think is different than business knowledge. I think it's just like, how does the industry work? What are you stepping into? And I just want to say top level that we probably got more than most because of some of the guests we had and the reps that came, and just some of the people that graduated from our school. But I do have to say, sorry, let me start by saying how I do think it prepared us. I think that we were aware of what people were doing, and that there was some segments of the industry that made more sense just by way of success stories or the guests that were coming. Plus, at some of our faculty, and I would very much Gerald, our dean, was sort of entrenched in the industry. Dale Gerard, our combat guy, was super active, and so there people we had, I think, realistic expectations from an industry standpoint. That's how I thought it prepared us. How did you think it prepared?
Um, yeah, I think the good, if I were to start with the good, um, would probably be like, it's difficult. I mean, yes, the exposure, meeting the casting people, all of that really helpful. Like and that's more than a lot. Listen, you know, the BFA program at University of Iowa or some shit like that, are they getting, the best
Exactly.
casting directors in the world,
Right.
or the most working to come to their school? Like, I
Right.
don't know, probably not. And so, or reps at like great offices, and that opportunity. That's really where it doesn't, where for me it doesn't quite prepare you industry wise. This is separate from business wise, maybe, is I have the exact opposite experience with you. No realistic expectations. I don't think people had a real. I think that it wasn't instilled in us. Like, you guys don't get it. Like, it is not going to be easy out there. In
Right.
fact, most
Right.
of you will not be doing this.
Right.
That is how challenging it is. And I know,
Right.
and listen, the thing is look, we've worked with students at schools with our
Yeah.
work and whatever. Like, I don't know how open I don't know if it was me not, because I remember vaguely people saying that, but like, I just so couldn't receive that, so,
Well, no, it's funny you say
but
this. I led a workshop. I led 2 classes last week for my buddy Danny Yorgis, who went to school. You remember Danny? He teaches at Millikan University. So and he just became a dad again. He has 2 kids now. So
very good.
us, Brian Suto, a bunch of us have been like subbing for his classes just to like on his paternity leave. And although I don't really think it's paternity leave when you have to find all the subs for your teachers, your classes, by the way. But I was meeting with these kids for 2 days, and I was basically doing an overview of so much of what we talk about. And again, to your point though, I actually understand why these schools, because now going into what they didn't prepare us for, I think you're right. Like, there's no real come to Jesus. They're not really giving these us young people, what we really need to understand about how challenging this is going to be. They instead, I would argue, and I think you probably agree to this, play into our dreams and fantasies.
And I think that, to be clear, how that could be resolved, which I don't know how useful that would be in the beginning, but it has to be from the beginning. It has to be like one of the first
from
weeks
the
of school.
beginning.
You say like, listen,
yes,
you're here, that's great,
yes,
but this is what we're here, because then it puts into perspective, like, okay, like, why am I here? like, why am I really here if there's no guarantee just because I graduate with this degree and from this great program that I'm ever going to work ever have
Exactly.
a professional job?
Exactly.
then then
Exactly.
then it could, but then probably what would happen is I bet you they would scare away a lot of people. That's probably what would happen.
Exactly. Exactly. No, listen, you know what it is? You're because look, we talk a lot about this, but it has always been true, and I think it is the most true it's ever been today. The expectation that your 4 years at a conservatory are going to lead to a showcase where you are going to get some great reps that are going to somehow magically send you out week 2 of being in whatever major city you're in, and that you're going to book those, going to get a couple of offers within your few months, and next thing you know, you're going to be recurring in a TV show. BS. And I know that's what they want you to set your sights on, but the truth is that when it comes to industry knowledge specifically, what should be taught, right? What we're talking about, what to your point about day one, not only is it going to be challenging, but fuck the showcase. Literally, LOL. Like, use it, but consider it like another day in the park.
But this is what's
Otherwise,
challenging. Yeah.
yeah, no, go ahead.
No, but what's challenging, and again, we're talking about North Carolina School of the Arts, where, to be clear, yes, I would say at least one person in every single class has that very experience, which
Sure.
is more than, and you talk about Yale, NYU grad, Juilliard, like, same thing. Like, I would say out of every class, 3 people do graduate, around 3 people, 2 to 3 people graduate and do just like they graduate school and they work forever. And that's it.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And so, whereas maybe that expectation would be more realistic if I did go to blank blank program, and I did not see that happening often.
Sure.
But like, what was hard about where we went.
I see these kids. I mean, I've been to a lot of different universities, and even some of the really wackadoodle ones. I don't mean that in a rude way.
Yeah.
Even the wackadoodle ones, they have the same, or if I may, they have like no expectation. They're just sort of like, I don't know, I'm gonna go and do it.
Yes.
No
Yes.
direction, literally zero.
Yes.
Just
At least,
show
like,
up.
I guess when you're graduating from, something like School of the Arts, like, you have models. Like, you see, oh, this guy who I was really good friends with, who was a grade above me, is a series regular on X show 2 months out of graduation.
Exactly.
That's like, so you have, what's hard is like, what's hard about that is that you're right there because you're
Right.
surrounded by people who are going to be stars.
Right. Right.
And it's like, yeah, it's like if you go to Juilliard, like, to be clear, a couple people in your class are going to be stars.
Sure.
But not everybody, and not a major. I would argue not a major. Even at Yale, even at whatever.
Well, but because you know what I always come back to with this that I always really love, and we've talked about, not all people are created equal when it comes to circumstance, resources, goals, person, workflow, talent, all of the above. You are not all created equal. Therefore, and the real point that I want to make by saying that is, it costs something different for everyone.
Correct.
And so, to your point you're making, if we all go, well, shouldn't I have the same thing?
No.
Don't I deserve that too? What about me? It's an unfortunate perspective, because you're going to likely be disappointed by the outcome, because it's just not based in any sense of truth.
Right. The expectations thing is what really is.
Sure.
And again, the reason why I don't know if I can, it's because what could have they have done, but like having realistic expectations about what graduation would have been like, to me, is, and what a life of an actor is really, would have been useful. From a business perspective, look, I think the major problem with Conservatory, at least when we were going, it might be a little different now, is what you keep bringing up, is you're just an actor. You are just an actor,
Right.
and you're not being. This is number one. Number one is that you are not given. When I was at school, it was changing a little bit with Carl, because Carl started doing Keys to the Kingdom, and he was,
Sure.
because he wasn't like he was a career director, but he started a theater company in New York, and so we started producing more at school. But I don't know at Yale School of Drama. I don't know. I know that they produce cabaret shit like that. I don't know at Carnegie Mellon. I don't know what the self-produce, if these kids are encouraged to make their
Yeah,
own
but
work.
also
I don't know.
I just want to say something like he's because that's great, and I wish we had that. Well, of course we had it in intensive arts, and maybe it's a good way to pivot to the business knowledge piece of this. But the
Yes.
problem is, Keys to the Kingdom, of course, promotes self-creation, which is amazing. And I didn't have it, but I understand what it is because Michael told me a lot about it. But for example, I would argue that, and I know I'm asking probably too much here, but I would argue that fundraising as a skill
Sure.
would be invaluable in conjunction with the idea of creating your own work, because sometimes creating your own work is almost seemingly sold as a placeholder for like until someone else picks you,
That's fair.
as opposed to
The job.
what is the job of a producer? Not a self-producer for my self-made work, but I'm producing my career. Do I understand what that takes and what skill sets I need to continue to sharpen in order to do that? Because, just to say now, from a business perspective, this is obviously no shocker, where my opinion is like, we had the business with best of the class, and I love him, but it was kind of almost as basic as it gets in terms of literally, here's a resume, this is a headshot, and here are some general tax considerations, and or taking meetings with reps and the like. But there,
Yeah.
especially today, I'm sorry, but and I don't even know if I would have said this 5 years ago, but especially today, every program should be going, okay, should have a social media component where they are teaching students how to create content. A content creation class
Yeah.
unto itself should be a consideration. And so, besides those basics, I just have to say, I'm pretty negative when it comes to business knowledge. I don't think these schools are preparing people practically at
Well,
all.
because they're teaching them the wrong job, right? Because your job is not to act when you graduate. Like, that's not, but what they're preparing you for, and this has to do with expectations too, is like, okay, we're assuming that you're going to leave the school and just work, and the work is magically going to come. So your job is just to be a good actor.
Right,
That's not the job.
right,
That's not the job.
right,
The job is to get work. And so, or the job is to get work / make work.
right,
Like, that is
right.
the job. And so when it comes to that, kind of just period, point blank, the end to what you're saying is like, you are not taught that. You are taught none of that. You are
Right.
not taught how to get work. You are not taught how to cultivate people in the business. You're not taught to how to self-produce in any meaningful way. It's like, there's, in terms of like industry, because everything is sort of supported by the school, like even now. So it's like, you're not taught how to fundraise. You're not taught how to like market it. You're not taught how to do any of that shit. So yes, I mean,
And I'll tell you one of the glaring ones for me. And I
might
feel
be
this way.
changing, but
I feel this way because it's something that we are, that I'm proud of in our all of our time of exploring this shit. One of it is just like how to manage the day to day of what it means to be an artist and trying to build a sustainable career to do that, because you really do have to look at, it's not just like, I really hope and I can put out some good social content. There are so many components to this that again, if you like,
branding, pitching,
and again, like literally how you manage time, how you manage the
workflow.
emotional and
Sure.
psychological ups and downs. It seems so basic, but a lot of entrepreneurs in other industries, the reason why they spend so much time talking about mindset is because you
Yep.
really have to be prepared for a tornado of emotion, and ironically, we punch myself in the face. Ironically, we don't talk about that.
Well,
We
you just
we
summed it
don't.
up. You just summed up everything that, because here's the main question: is that conservatory's responsibility? Because what I'm realizing out of this conversation is that I think what people propose, it's like, well, that's not what you're there to learn. You're there to learn literally how to act. You're not there to learn how to be an actor in the real world. You're there literally to learn craft and acting technique. That's what a conservatory is. So, but where I in agreement with you is like, that should not be 4 years. If that's all it is, which is not, look, I'm not saying, but the point you're making is spot on, is that's a lifelong process. That's and the best way that you learn is by doing. And so what your process is and your craft is, like, that's not, if that's all you're getting at school, that is not 4 years of intense 12, 15 hours a day training. That to me does not make sense. What makes more sense to me, it's like, no, you're here to learn how to be an actor in the world. If that was the point of conservatory, then it opens up, and that was, you're not just here to learn how to act, but that is not what a conservatory is.
Here's why I think it has to be.
Sure. You're talking about redefining. Just to be clear, you're talking about redefining what a conservatory is.
I absolutely am, because I want to be clear. I have to. This point is really important. How many people do we know, and there might be people who are listening to this, who have, not to be frou-frou, but given up on their dreams, and they might be incredibly talented, but they are ill-equipped, and it's not their fault, because we are told, to your point, that we are being spoon-fed a culture, an idea that yes, you're right, there's probably going to be at least one person whose experience is somewhat handed to them, and I appreciate that. But the fact of the matter is that there would be a lot more artists doing the thing that they should be doing, than there are today, if these training programs took responsibility for, at least per our primary point that I think that you agree with, managed expectations.
Well, that's it. Because, look, what's the number one thing you always hear trained actors coming out of these schools say? Once I get the job, I'm fine.
Right.
That's what I always hear. Right. Put me in, coach. Once I'm in,
and I think that's a bullshit notion too.
I'll do it, but what I don't get is how to get the part, how to work, how to be working.
Right.
So we're, yes, as I think the main, it all depends on what you're there. If you're there just to learn how to act, let me tell you, in my personal opinion, yes, it creates this beautiful, I know people who work nonstop, who have careers that are phenomenal, who look back at school as still the best time of their lives because of the environment, because of how creatively fulfilling it was. But, but what's hard is that, is you just said, that's not the job. Like, is it there to just teach you how to be a good, which is great. Are you there to learn how to act? Then I think 4 years, 15 hours a day might be a little overkill. I think, to be honest with you, because that's like you said, that's a lifelong process, and it perpetuates the myth of, well, if you're just a good actor, work comes. That's why we're going to focus on the acting, because if you're just a good if you're a phenomenal actor, then the work comes, which we all know is not true. But if you want to I think you're right. To rebuild the conservatory is preparing actors for the actor's life, #actor's life. If that was the point of conservatory, to train them, then that would be a different proposition than what they currently are.
Well, it sort of brings me to this sort of like somewhat summation question here of this, and maybe I'm happy to somewhat share my opinion subsequently. of like, what was it worth it? Was acting conservatory worth it? Slash, in comparison to something like a liberal arts program. And here I'll share my thought on this, which you might disagree with. With all this said, it's ironic because I actually, in some ways, think it's still the only option if you really want to build a sustainable career as an actor. There's lots of people who would disagree with me on that, but let me be clear what I mean. This business is too hard to not be the absolute best, as we always say, as a baseline. Excellence is a baseline. And there are so many. I just want to say, I'm working on this project now where some of the people involved are not actors. They're not actors. They're not trained. And we're working on one of the hardest plays that you ever, could tackle.
Sure.
And they're ill-equipped. And so separate from all of the basics in a lot of ways, and even what we were talking about with craft, if you want to build a sustainable career as an artist, no matter what the art is, but, we're obviously talking about acting primarily, I do believe that taking that time, if for no other reason than to immerse yourself, as we said, in the day-to-day of creation, of being in that space of this is who I am and it's what I do, and finding the joy and the pain and the fear in all of that, and fully immersing yourself. Even if you go down the road and you choose to pivot elsewhere, I think is a necessity. So for me, conservatory, even with its highs and lows, remains one of the most important things I've done. I had a great time at the School of the Arts. I'm very grateful. And I do think that artists choosing to pursue a career in this should go, period. What are your thoughts?
I have mixed thoughts.
Yep.
Well, one thing we didn't talk about, which I think is the best part, the biggest asset of school, is the community.
Mm-hmm.
That alone is worth the price of admission. And by the way, that I think is a School of the Arts thing, specifically.
I definitely agree. You're so right about that.
Because with School of the Arts, it's like a very, we have probably, I think, the best alumni community. It's just like School of the Arts people show up for School of the Arts people.
So true. It's so true.
There's a there's something about it.
Yeah.
And it's not fostered by the school per se. It's just there's something, I don't know what it is. It's, and we have and that's everything is, listen, the connections you have, and I'm not talking about the people who come to school. I'm talking about your fellow classmates. That to me is worth the price of admission. That's really, really special. Having that built-in community. Okay.
Yes.
But you get that other places too. NYU has a lot of that, whatever. Okay. Where I have mixed feelings is I also think it depends what you want to do. Because look, I think that if you want to make a career on stage, intense training is important. Look, there are some people who are TV people, because I don't know if conservatory is the only option for somebody who wants to do TV film, because we see it. There are plenty of people who are phenomenal TV film actors who did not go to conservatory, who were, making pizzas and then took an acting class. And, so I for theater, I think it is a little different because you're going through such a grueling training process of 12, 15 hours a day, voice and speech, preparing your physical, like I'm like in the worst shape ever, but I can still get up on stage and I have stamina and I can be heard.
Yes.
And I can be, and that is, that I think comes with intensive training.
Sure.
Listen, I wouldn't take back my experience because I loved going to school, but what I think is most important, which is, is that you understand that you need to find your own way. And that I did not, and I'm not saying that's the school's fault, but every artist needs to find their way and understand what their process is and what their artistic vision and values are. Now, mission is. Now, the only way you can do that, of course, is by trying things out and like training yourself to understand those things.
Well, it's so funny. You say, you always say that, and I appreciate it because it's not my experience. Meaning, because I think it's where it's a bit personal, and I've heard you
Yeah,
say this before, that like there's maybe a smidgen of resentment in terms of feeling like you are a very open person, and I don't mean this in a rude way, but impressionable, and really take things, but it's part of your talent, like you're very open. And I think that I am a bit, this about me, I'm a bit
skeptical. Yeah,
more, exactly.
independent. Yeah,
So I think that my experience there very much shaped, but I remember years fighting on that whole act. So it was micro, but I remember being like, I'm in Matt Bullock's class, actions. No, you gotta lambast her. What are you talking about? That's not. I was like, no. That's not, I'm not going to worry about that. It wasn't until Laura Henry that I really understood how to play an action, because you don't play an action. Let me be clear. My opinion. You don't write down a bunch of words, verbs, and get up and go, "Ooh, I got to make sure that I shock her with this line." No, and Laura's whole perspective, it's that it's character work. You understand the kinds of actions that your character plays, you physicalize them, and then you forget it. I love that, but I'm saying it because I'm pushing back for
you know,
years on this in school, being like, this is insane to me.
you know.
Anyway.
But this
So
is, I think, a general thing with training in general, right? Is that what's very dangerous and dead to me, and this is, is when anybody says, I'm not saying you're saying this, but I'm about to teach a Shakespeare. I'm about to do a Shakespeare intensive that I'm teaching. It's like, what's very dangerous to me is dogma. Dogma in
sure,
training is dangerous, in my
sure,
opinion, where, you know, anything is anything. And that's the way it is.
right,
And so I think that, is conservatory worth it? I think if you get into and again, I think it depends on what conservatory you're going to. If you get into if you get into a really good conservatory, yes, I think it's worth it, because listen, you need to train, you need to get your teeth, and per your point, if you don't have a backup plan, yeah, like if you're like, I'm doing this and I don't want to minor in, coding or whatever, and it's like, this is what the fuck I'm doing, and you're really going all in, then you might as well get that intense training, like at the beginning, and then understand that, it is the beginning. Even after that 4 years of investment, it is the beginning. Understand that. I feel like, at the end of the day, you need to figure out what your values are, separate from what your teachers tell you, what your artistic
of
values
course,
are.
of course.
And, you know,
And more importantly, let me say, it's not one and done, meaning
right.
under, because I think this again goes back to the idea that like I'm supposed to leave school and be ready for the rest of my life. Well, no, you got the rest of your life. There's more shit to learn, more experiences to be had, more things to, challenge yourself. I would argue, go study new, even if you
Yeah.
even if you have that opinion or point of view and go, I feel confident in this. Great. Why don't you try something
Go
out
fuck
to
it up.
see if,
Go somewhere.
exactly.
Go fuck it up. Yeah.
Only because I have to go. Let's
All right.
jump to comfort food performances. Right? Comfort food performances.
Yeah.
And you're gonna like mine. And I'm sure you haven't, or maybe you have seen it, because I watched it last night, and it's a new movie called Dream Scenario, starring
Oh, Nick
Nicolas
Cage.
Cage,
Yeah.
and he's great. He's great in it. He's so good. I mean, we always know Nicolas Cage is great, but
I agree with you. I think
but
Nicolas Cage is great.
he is really good, and I think you'll like this movie. It's actually a part that you could play. Interesting. It's a really interesting. Like I think you'll like the movie. I think you'll like what he does, but Nick Cage is great in it, and he just quick premise, not giving too much away.
Oh, yeah.
He plays someone who starts appearing in people's dreams around the world, like all kinds of people. And so he becomes like randomly famous for it. And then those dreams turn into nightmares. And it's like how the world starts to react to him. And so and the movie sort of shows him on that journey, but then also he has to recreate many of the dreams and the nightmares that people are having. And he's just great. He's just such a dynamic, unique, weird, subtle performer. And it's a good movie and a great performance.
Yep. I love Nick Cage. Yeah, I think that's really good. I guess if I had to choose one right now off the top of my head, you know, it's hard. I would honestly say, for some reason, the Green Mile's coming up. Michael Jeter in the Green Mile. Have you ever seen the Green Mile?
I have.
Oh, it's
Yes,
so
yes,
good.
and I'm remembering his
Michael
performance.
Jeter has
Yes,
the bit part. He has that bit
yes, he's
part where
very
he's
good.
like the guy with the mouse, Mr. Bojangles.
Yes, he's very good.
He's excellent in that. I love Michael Jeter.
Me
So
too.
Michael Jeter is like, there's like a couple of actors like those are always the actors I relate to the most, like those bit, like Michael
Totally.
Jeter, like John Cazale, like people like that who are
Totally.
like sort of those like bit part kind of people who like, and he is so good in that. Well, that movie is just incredible,
Yes.
but he is so good in that movie. He's just like, he is that guy. It's like, and he was such an interesting looking dude,
Yep.
and he was funny, so funny, but so soft and caring, and that's a great performance.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. That's a really good one. Well, folks, thank you so much for tuning in
All
for our
right.
6.5 hour episode of Creative Risk, where we
Wasn't that
talk
long.
about art, entrepreneurialism, and everything in between. If you enjoyed the podcast, please like and subscribe, of course. And if you really like the podcast, as I think you've heard us mention, we do have a Patreon now, patreon.com/Creative Risk Podcast, where you can get bonus episodes, full episodes, and some bonus weekly shorter episodes from Labbadia and myself, plus some discounts on merch and or discounts in working with either of us one-on-one.
Yep.
Which who wouldn't want that magic?
Who wouldn't want that? Come on.
So check it out, and we'll see you soon.